Secret of the Mimic slowly unravels a sad story of a man and his family losing everything. Due to tragic events, a killer is created. But there was something that could have made this killer, M2, perfect. Something that Edwin never noticed and Fiona did. I don't think Fiona is as innocent as we are led to believe. I think she had something to do with David's death. So let's explore what made her so perfect and see why she might have killed her own son. Now, before we can acknowledge how and why M1 or Fiona might have killed David, we need to understand why she was successful in the first place, because it plays a huge part in everything. As we know, Fiona somehow died at Fall Fest in presumably a fire. The details to this still remain a mystery, but what's important here is that she birthed David, survived, and then died. We know this from an audio tape.
I have to go help the Fall Fest crew, just for a few days until the installation is finished. It's hard to explain. I just have this terrible feeling like I need to be there so nothing goes wrong, just in case. Trisha will babysit David while I'm gone. I love you both, and I'll be back next week.
Oh, why did you go? You weren't even supposed to be there. You were supposed to be here with me and David. Oh, how am I supposed to tell David that his mother is gone? How am I supposed to raise a kid on my own?
This of course put Edwin in a state of distress. How was he supposed to raise his son David alone? When explaining to David that his mother was no longer around, he mentions her always being with them, watching over. Being the inventor that he is, this gave Edwin an idea. What if she could always be watching over them? So he built an endoskeleton. Edwin then took all the voice recordings of Fiona as Mrs. Helper. Remember, she was the voice of this program. He also took the videotapes he had of her, like from David's birthday parties, and put them inside a program that would mimic the life of Fiona. This program was called M1, so Edwin put M1 inside of the endoskeleton he built. Sure enough, it worked. Fiona was back. But her success was strange. Why was the program working so well? It seemingly had all her memories and truly believed herself to be Fiona. Perhaps the program was so strong, Fiona's spirit took it over, which would mean M1 was possessed by Fiona. Now, I have to point out that there is realistically no possible way for Edwin to have gotten his hands on Fiona's dead body and performed some kind of ritual that would have transferred her soul into the program. Even saying that doesn't feel right. If she died in a fire, her body was likely burnt to a crisp, and on top of this, Edwin didn't make M1 directly after she died, so there is no way he was going to keep her body around for however long it was until he made M1. I just had to point that out. There is no way he could have used her body. So assuming Fiona's spirit did find its way into the program or endoskeleton, this could explain why M1 was so successful. It was possessed by Fiona. After all, this wouldn't be the first time in FNAF that we are dealing with spirits. With the success of M1, Fiona helped convince Edwin to build another. But instead of building a new endoskeleton, Edwin did something else. He placed Fiona, the M1 program, inside of a supercomputer he called F10N4. In other words, Fiona. While inside this computer, Fiona had access to everything within the facility. She could open doors, see through cameras, and control just about anything. We can assume Fiona's spirit went into this computer with the program. I bring the F10N4 computer up because it's important later on. So with M1 now inside of the computer, Edwin created M2, another mimic program, but this one would mimic what it saw. He placed it inside the same endoskeleton M1 was in. So now we have M1, Fiona, inside the supercomputer, and M2 inside of her old endoskeleton. M2 and David would spend all of their time together. Because of this, it began to mimic the behaviors of David. This was exactly what it was made to do. While Edwin worked, M2 would play with David and keep him company. Fiona was still around, but she was inside of the computer. Word would get out about M2 as Fazbear Entertainment wanted to get their hands on the program. But as Edwin said himself, it wasn't ready. It was mimicking David, but it was not acting like its own being. Something was different with M2 compared to M1. Keep this in mind. Now, unfortunately, David somehow died while outside of the facility. In the books, we know he was hit by a van. There is even an audio tape of Edwin's lawyer advising him not to build David's playground by the loading dock. So this means we can assume he was hit by a van either coming in or leaving. And from here, we know how the rest of the story goes. M2 acts like David, which fills Edwin with anger, so he attacks Mimic. M2 mimics these new behaviors and attacks Edwin back. This takes us into the events of Secret of the Mimic. So, like I suggested earlier, I don't think Fiona is as kind or innocent as we are led to believe. I think she played a role in David's death. But how and why? Well, let's answer how first. The game clearly left David's death ambiguous for a reason. They could have simply explained David was outside and got hit by a van, but they didn't. So here we are, theorizing about the lore. I think Fiona played a part in David's death. I think she is part of the reason why he died. Remember how I mentioned Fiona being inside the supercomputer was important? Well, this is why. She had access to everything inside the facility: security, cameras, and doors. So one day, Fiona opened a bay door which caused David's ball to roll out onto the loading docks. When chasing after the ball, he would be hit by a van and killed. I'm suggesting that Fiona opened a door which allowed David to run outside and get hit by a van. This would be the part she played in his death. But why? Why would Fiona get her own son killed? Well, remember what I said about there being something different with M2 compared to M1? This difference was a spirit. M1 was so successful because Fiona's spirit was attached to it, while M2 did not have David's spirit. Edwin didn't notice this, but Fiona did. That being said, she couldn't tell this to Edwin. She knew he would not kill his own son to make the program perfect. So she took matters into her own hands and tried to fix the problem. By killing David, this would allow his spirit to attach to the program, or Endo, and perform perfectly, just like M1. You could also suggest that Fiona did this for another agenda. She wanted her son back, to live with her forever. The only way this could happen was if David was dead just like her. If they were both spirits, they could live together forever. Her in a computer while David was inside of the Endo. She even says she misses her son more than Edwin, meaning a mother would do anything to get her son back. Now, considering this is a theory, you might be thinking, well, yeah, but probably not, right? After all, why would Fiona really kill her son? Well, there is one more detail that supports this theory, and it's inside of the Moon.exe game. When the baby owl is alive, the son's, rather Fiona's, stove is cold and unused. When we receive the baby owl mask, the baby owl itself disappears entirely. The stove is on and something smells like chicken. That line was obviously said for a reason. This implies that the son killed the baby owl to make the owl mask. Now, I'm not going to go into the story behind the Moon.exe game, but this basically means that M1, Fiona, killed David. This game tells us that Fiona killed her own son, a sacrifice to make the mask, a sacrifice of David for M2 to work. So I think Fiona got David killed so his spirit would attach to M2. This would make M2 work perfectly, and she would ultimately get her son back if his spirit was inside of a program just like her. But obviously this didn't work. Why? Maybe it was because of the aggressive behaviors it witnessed from Edwin. The program became so filled with rage that not even the boy's spirit could control it. Or rather, because the ending associated with the Moon game is not canon. Do you guys think Fiona got David killed? Honestly, probably not, but it's super fun to speculate. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like horror game content like this, please consider subscribing. Also, I have a Discord server, so if you want to chat with me, I recommend joining. And if you want to support the channel more, you can become a member. Don't forget to follow my Twitter at TerrifyT. Thanks for watching.